Hello and welcome, Stephen University listeners, to the Stephen University Q&A 2! Woo!
Hooray! It's a bonus episode.
Yeah, we like a good bonus, don't we?
We do. We love a bonus.
Oh.
I feel we're too generous with our bonuses. I feel most people would put bonus up as regular episodes, but we don't do that. And we regularly screw ourselves over. And it means we have to.
Yeah, because we're just recording an extra thing. Yeah. Because it can't go up as part of the Tuesday-Friday run. It has to be a separate thing. It can't it's true. Although I think when we do historically when we've done the bonuses that aren't Q&As, so the shorts and stuff that have been more directly related, I think we have done those in place of an episode to make them.
Okay.
I think we did that to make the bombs line up. Do you remember we did the pilot as well?
Yes.
To try and make the bombs line up with a Monday, so we didn't have to have a gap. Anywho, different story. Right, Chris, are you ready for some? So are you ready for some cues to be aid?
I am. So I'm legitimately excited.
Yeah, good. Now, historically, you've had some of your friends read the comments and then give you a heads up of what people are saying, filtering out spoilers for you. Has anyone done that for this? Have you had any sense of what questions are being asked?
No. That would seem disingenuous.
So you're reading these completely afresh.
These are fresh questions. Well, I'm not even reading them, mate. I see. What do you want me to? I can read them if you want, but I haven't.
No. I'm going to read them, but you're getting them fresh in the context of this.
Yeah. These are some fresh Q's and A's for me. But presumably there's some Q's. There's questions for both of us, I assume.
Couple for me, but I think mostly it's and as it should be aimed at you. I think what's going to be. Some of them are quite general as well, and I'll try to chip in. But But the other thing I read these in thoroughly and stuff when we did this and when we put that video up over a month ago, Chris, when we put the Q&A request up, which was January the 27th. It is now for us March the 4th,
and we apologise. And as far as I'm aware, from at least you've not told me that anyone's been too guys, where's the Q&A?
No.
We had some technical stuff. We had schedules not aligning. We had ear infections. So we apologise for the delay in this.
And we had the big one, which is that we had to do the final episode of Fringe Observers.
Yes,
which took a lot more prep and work than those episodes normally took. And I've been doing my Save the Light playthroughs. Also, Chris is planning a wedding and buying a house, and I've got a new job and I've got to move. And it's we've been busy. We've been real busy. And we both work full-time jobs as well. Chris, I don't know how we're not dead. That's what we should.
I worry regularly for our health.
Yeah.
You more than me because you do all the editing. But yeah,
because if you go, at least I'll be able to continue to upload all the content we have produced up to that point. If I go, it's just going to end with whatever's currently uploaded. Everything else will be lost to time.
I know how to. I know YouTube, so I could probably get us onto YouTube. But if Dan dies, download everything from iTunes that you want, because that'll disappear as soon as I'm no longer paying the. Whatever one I do pay, one comes off my card, so one I pay for. Whatever that one is, that might still appear. So it might still appear on Lipsync, not on iTunes. Yeah. Who knows what would happen?
Yeah, it's a tentative ecosystem of various servers running together with an RSS feed that's pushing to iTunes and stuff. And if I was to go, I don't know which parts of that ecosystem would fail and therefore would start to come down. Like the website would go away pretty quickly, I imagine. Because no one's paying the server cost there.
My prediction would be it would all go away, but I'd still be paying. Somehow,
no maintenance.
Money would still
like having a gym subscription you don't need. Or don't use. Yeah. Got it.
My gym message you when you've not been for a week, and they're like, "Chris, the gym misses you. Come back."
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyway.
Anywho, yeah. So, question number 1, Chris. Was related actually because in the Q&A video
Can I just say the reason Dan says they should be for me is because you guys can talk to Dan more readily because he can read the comments. I can't read the comments because of spoilers, and I probably wouldn't anyway because laziness. Dan's not that. So that's why I don't want anyone to think Dan's like Chris should get the questions. It's because people don't usually get a chance to speak to me because they're commenting and I'm not reading them. Only Dan is.
Which
So
which I made clear in the announcement video, but I guess I didn't make clear here. So yeah, you're right. Also,
yeah, I just didn't want to look egotistical.
Sure. Well, you wouldn't have done because it was me saying they should be for you.
I know, but equally, I didn't correct you. I was just like, yeah, I am more important.
I think it's important that these ones are aimed at you as much as possible. So we'll try to keep that. Some of them are more practical ones about running the podcast, and I guess that when we get to those ones, that'll be for me because I mostly do that stuff. Anyway, different story. Let's have a look. So the first question is actually...
What, do you want to get into... Do you feel you're doing too much, Dan? Do you want to rip that? Do you want to have that debate?
No, because to be fair, recently Chris has been taking a more active role in some other elements of the podcast as well, which I think has been really helpful. Like he's been doing the one of the more time-consuming elements of me editing Nothing But Static is doing the time codes. So where everything is, if you want to skip spoilers. And Chris has been very, very kindly donating his time, even on the weeks where I'm terrible and don't edit the podcast until last minute. So he has to do it like the night before at a silly o'clock. Chris has been doing that. So
did coincidentally do one yesterday, didn't I, at midnight? But yeah, but no, you still do way more. This is just a love fest. You do way more. And one thing I do want to increase is the YouTube, but we haven't. Weirdly, the stuff if anyone's just like, where we were putting inserts of the podcast on YouTube. That is something that will continue. The reality is, recently, not that much new stuff has been airing, and certainly not. Like, whereas our review of Star Wars or DuckTales, we can confidently go, okay, it's probably worth us putting the time into editing that and uploading it. And like my proposal story, I thought you guys might be interested in. No one necessarily is going to be going to our YouTube page for our review of the Joe McHale show with Joe McHale. So that's when some bigger stuff comes out.
But I did wonder about Black Mirror being an option.
Yes, I did intend to. It's what you said. The big list of reasons we're so insanely busy is also a play in that.
Yeah.
But hopefully I'll try and get more of that up.
Yeah, because Chris does those. If anyone wonders, that's like another one of Chris's contributions to what we overall do, which is that he does the MBS. Like he does like the MBS reviews YouTube thing. So he takes the episode of the podcast I've already edited and puts it to some visuals and then sticks it on YouTube, which he does a good job of, I think, and it helps.
But overall without
podcast.
a doubt, Dan does more. This is a really weird.
Yeah, we've gone down a weird route. Let's do the questions. So let's cue some A's, Chris. Not talk ourselves in a circle for 7 minutes, which is what we've currently done. Right. Q&A. On the announcement video, we talked also about losing our YouTube partner status, which led someone to asking, do you get any reasonable amount of money from the partnership thing? Like, don't you need to get millions of views to actually benefit from it? And that's from... I can never pronounce this name. It's spelt Tipoima. Tipoima? I might be pronouncing that wrong.
T-O-P-I...
No, P-O-I. Tipoima.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tipoima, I think. Because P-O-I would be poi.
Apologies if we've butchered your name.
Yeah, I apologise. Tipoima has also been commenting regularly on my Save the Light videos, so he's one of the 10 people still watching those, which is nice. Anyway, do you actually get a reasonable amount of money from the partnership thing? Like, don't you need to get millions of views to actually benefit from it? Yes and no. We don't get very much at all from the partnership thing, but the couple of pounds we do get from it, and it's a very slim amount of money, and we only get it once we hit like $60. The payout, it's ridiculous. So we only get payouts. In fact, I don't remember the last time we got a payout, Chris. I think they cut us off when we had like $58 stored.
Yeah, I think we only really have ever had like 2 payouts, 2 or 3.
I think, we get very little money out of it, but that does still help. Our costs aren't massive. They are, I don't know the exact figures, but we pay a certain amount per year for the server on the website. Then we pay, do we pay monthly for the server space of the website? I think we pay monthly for the server space on the website, and we pay yearly for the domain, Nothing But Static.co.uk domain. And then we pay Libsyn for each individual podcast, a monthly fee, depending on the length and size of the podcast. So the data use, we have to pay more. So like Nothing But Static, which was longer, we'd theoretically have had to pay more for, but then Fringe we uploaded more frequently, so it was shorter, but we uploaded once a week instead of once every 2 weeks. So I think those two balanced out as being the same. But all those costs, anything that chips away at those, because those costs are not enormous. We're not talking thousands of pounds. It's still a reasonable amount of money. Those YouTube helped just chip those down a little bit. The money we got from YouTube. And also it stopped us from wanting to just give up entirely, bury our heads in the sand and go, it's all pointless. So, because seeing a tiny bit of money come through for your hard work, you would not believe how encouraging that is. And when you take that away,
yeah,
it's amazing how demotivating that can be.
Yeah, because I think it's we don't. It's one of those things where we don't begrudge paying, but but we're not earning either a living nor that money back, which is fine. We've made that decision, but I think probably the reason we don't have an exact figure is because it gets to the point where we did MBS, then we did Fringe Observers, and then we did Stephen University, and we've kept going and kept doing different things because people have increasingly responded well, and we want that to be the driver for the decision. The reason we can't give you an exact figure is because the minute you put an exact figure on it, then you go, oh, we want to do it for all these right reasons and because people seem to be enjoying it, but equally it's costing that much a month. So
yeah, I mean, realistically, I think
anything that helps.
Yeah, and I think realistically, it's gone as high as like 50, 60 quid a month potentially in fees and stuff. When we were at our height, now obviously Fringe Observers is now ended, which is saving us some money now. But Stephen University has blown up in the sense of, not in terms of its popularity. I mean, if you could argue that the figures have gone down, but we've expanded Stephen University quite a lot since we started. It was once a week, and it was 10 minutes a week. Or 15 minutes a week. It was never really 10, was it? It was always about 15 at minimum. 15 to 20.
15, yeah.
And then it's grown and grown and grown, and now we're regularly doing 30-minute episodes, which are longer, and we're now doing them twice a week. So again, in terms of Libsyn costs, I mean, that is a lot. We're putting a fair amount of money into it. And like I said, we've never really wanted to make a profit off this. If we carry on as we are, that's fine. What we've said, and what we said specifically regarding the Patreon, is the goal is really just to break even. If we can break even and we can be doing this and having this kind of fun, and it's not costing us anything, that'd be wonderful. That's the dream. We don't necessarily need to make a lot of money with it. We're happy with our small but quite engaged listenership. We're happy with everything. Like we'll just keep doing it. That's fine. The issue we have is not issue, but the thing is, it's a shame that to have that, it costs us as much money as it does. So the more pennies we get through the Patreon or through YouTube all chip away at those costs, and therefore make it just a little bit more cost efficient to run across the year. So yes, you're right. There was very little money being made off YouTube, but it was a good motivator to see any money trickling in, and it was chipping away at the existing costs of running the website, keeping the domain, and keeping the Libsyn subscriptions. Because I wish we could just pay one subscription and have all the podcasts on it. But no, you have to sign up for you can attach the shows to one account, but you pay individually for each show. So yeah, it's tricky. And to even keep Fringe Observer's archive up, we still have to pay monthly. It's a lot less because we're not uploading anything new, but to keep the archive up, we have to actually be still paying a monthly fee. So just keeping Fringe Observers a finished podcast on iTunes costs us a monthly fee, which is nuts, really. But anyway,
I think the other nuts thing is that that I'm still here, because the conceit of Stephen University was we don't really have time to do this, but it's fine because it's one 15-minute podcast a week. And slowly Dan has tricked me into doing 2 half-an-hour podcasts a week. But I'm here for you guys. I'm joking. It's not a problem. It's fine.
I was just gonna say, wow, that's dark, guys. Chris does not want to be here. We've learned.
Yeah, what a downbeat note for the Q&A. No, I'm joking. Of course I do.
Right, let's start. We're going to start flying through these. This is going to take forever if we do it at this rate. So yeah, next question. How do you feel about Peridot being the true Green Power Ranger gem? Because for a long time,
I love it.
Because for a long time you were referring to Lapis as the Green Power Ranger gem.
Cute blue one. Yep.
And that's because her arc most resembled that to you. But in reality, now we're this far in, the arc that has actually most resembled the Green Power Rangers has been Peridot's. She's gone full round to basically being a part of the team.
Yes.
So yeah,
I love it. I think it's awesome. I wish they'd. The one element they've not made a Power Ranger like is they don't. It's certainly in the episodes we've watched recently. we've just recorded Bismuth for context, is she's not been about much. So I love that she's the Green Power Ranger. I want to see more of her.
Yeah, we're at a point now we haven't seen her for a little while, have we?
Yeah, we haven't seen her for. I think we've seen her since Too Short to Ride, which was ages ago.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But her arc was. I think it's nice to get a break because her arc was so like intensive.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. But I think you do. If you think about it for too much, you are a bit like, what's going on at the barn?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But there's no middle ground, because if she was there all the time, you'd be like, well, this has shifted the show. This has changed the dynamic that we're used to. So,
yeah, it's true. And that question was from a person with a name.
Nice. Great.
I mean, I literally could not wait to utter that sentence because, like, how brilliant that a person's username would be a person with a name. So that when I say that question was from a person with a name, it sounds like a very, very undercooked sentence. I like it. So yeah, there we go. Next question. Do you think sweatpants should be classified as pants? Good question. I think it depends on the context. If you're the sort of person who wears sweats out in public and rather than just to lounge about the house, then yeah. But if you're I think it depends on the person, because I think if you're the sort of person who's wearing your sweats just indoors as like almost like sort of loungy house clothes, then they're really closer to pajamas.
Yeah, I think you've got to determine it yourself. Like my sweatpants and jogging bottoms, I suppose, are our equivalent in the UK. I only really wear out to the gym. I certainly wouldn't walk in town in them, and actually I wouldn't lounge in them either. I tend to lounge in pajamas, which I would refer to as leisure wear.
There you go.
So I think you don't choose the trouser terminology. The trouser terminology chooses you.
There you go. That was from IT. Thanks for your question,
That's
IT. Q Jure.
My favourite. Is that the only question they asked?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Q Jure.
That's incredible.
Moving on. Monty Bush asks several questions. We'll get through them as quickly as we can now. And sorry to rush through them, but I'm realizing how much time we've already spent. We've spent 17 minutes and we've answered three of 100 questions. So we're going to move on. Which potential future fusions would Chris be most interested in seeing and why?
All of them. Put them all together. Big Megazord.
We've had that. Minus
Get Steven in there. Get Connie in there.
Peridot in there.
Get Peridot in there.
Lapis.
Get the cute blue one in there. Get them all in there.
Yeah. Okay. In terms of single combinations, is there anyone particularly you fancy sort of like getting to sooner? Is there any combination that we haven't seen that you're most interested in seeing beyond the others?
Lapis and was that right?
You're pretty close. That was pretty close. There was still a sound, but I think that was the closest you've been thus far.
Cute blue one and Green Power Ranger. Cute blue one and Peridot would surely be.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, surely that would. You've got her elegance and her. So sorry, you've got the cute blue one's elegance and Peridot's sort of more feisty nature. You've got the water versus the earth in a way. Like, it'd be great.
Yeah. I'm not against that. I think I would be equally excited at this stage to see that myself. But I'll be honest with you, my thought around this point, because as Chris mentioned, we just watched Bismuth. My thought around this point was just I want to see Steven fuse with someone different now. That was my primary.
I don't know, because I like the romantic connotations of Stevoni, and I like that being special, and I like that being a thing, and I think him fusing with someone else, I think will just take away the innocence of that a little bit for me.
That's fair. Moving on. Cued that, eh? Mm-hmm. Next one. Has Steven Universe changed Chris's views on animated shows?
Not really, because my views on animated shows was always a much bigger deal for Dan than it was for me. So it's not something. It's not something I think about. I think I don't really think about it. I think it's changed my views on what you can do with a children's show. It's made me see the crazy amount of depth that a children's animation can go to. But as for whether it's made me more inclined to watch another animated show, like an obvious choice would be Adventure Time, not particularly. But then I never thought, I'm not sat with a dartboard throwing darts at animated TV characters, or sitting alone with a whiskey, flicking through the channels and shooting the TV whenever I see Doug or Hey Arnold appear, as Dan would have you believe. I'd never. So it's given me huge more appreciation and kind of like for children's animation, but I don't know if it's changed my view on animation as a whole.
There you go. Have either of you finished a podcast for an episode only to suddenly remember there was something you really wanted to mention but forgot? And are there any extra notes you'd like to add to a past episode now, given what you know?
I think it happens. I think the big ones we remember and would have done. There's sometimes where you remember a joke or you go, oh yeah. So it does happen. Less now that the podcast is so long or longer. Could you remember anything?
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any. Well, I can think of a specific example that's come up recently. For me, there's two versions of this that happen. The version one is that there's a detail I wanted to just bring up and reference and talk about, just give praise to or whatever, and then I forget to do it because we talk about the wider strokes of the episode. So, like, for example, we watched Stephen versus Amethyst, and when you guys listen to Stephen versus Amethyst and then listen to Bismuth, and I'm not sure I'm putting this Q&A up yet, so those might already be available. They might be, they might not be. I don't know. But when you listen to those episodes, guys, when you get to them, or if you can go back now and listen to them, you'll notice that in Stephen versus Amethyst, we talk about that, and then in Bismuth, I go, oh, and by the way, I just want to reference that joke where Amethyst makes egg salad, and I bring that up in the Bismuth episode because it was something I wanted to say and praise in Stephen vs. Amethyst, and I forgot, and then I remembered in the next one, and those little moments come back a lot. You'll find me doing that where I go into the next episode, and then I go, oh, and by the way, one thing I missed about last week that I wanted to add, and I'll do it. So you'll notice me doing that occasionally.
A peek behind the curtain thing is, I think, unfortunately, that's slightly dependent on the schedule. We recorded Bismuth one day after. In fact, not even one. We recorded Stephen versus Amethyst the evening before and Bismuth the morning. So there was one night to realise that, remember it, and say it. I think the longer apart we record episodes, which is fully dependent on our schedules, the harder that becomes.
But the other kind is when the other kind of that where I'm really annoyed is like there'll be a thought that is sort of formed somewhere at the back of my head, but I haven't verbalized or quite figured out how I feel about it yet. And our listeners, who I repeat, are always more intelligent and far more informed on this show than we are, and far more astute and far more eloquent, will comment on a video, and I'll go, oh, that's the thing I wanted to express, but couldn't find the words, or couldn't quite put it in context, or couldn't quite... and then I'll try and work it into a later episode if I can, where I bring the subject back up. Like a conversation we had...
And claim their thoughts as your own.
No.
I'm joking.
No, I did not do that. That would be a bad thing to do. But I will, I know, for example, again, to reference the episode we just recorded, which is Bismuth, I say, in the comments the other day, I was talking with such a person, and it led me to this thought, and I explained how I got there, and then we had the thought, and it was a thought regarding sort of Rose and the tragedy of Rose's character, and that came from comment sections, and it's something I wish I'd been able to express in Greg the Babysitter when we talk about Rose, but it didn't really occur to me till I was replying and talking to the people in the comments, and then I was able to bring it out in an episode later down the line. That's the other version of it that happens to me, and it's both are frustrating because it would feel more complete if these things happened in the episodes they were supposed to, but at the same time, there is a satisfaction to putting that last piece of a puzzle in, even if it is a few episodes down the line.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
that makes sense. I'm looking forward to being caught up and being able to get involved in those discussions. Because I can't even it's a show I really enjoy that I can't talk about really in any other format other than this one. And it's not even with Fringe, there was a slight pressure release because someone at work had watched it, but no one apart from one good friend who's at uni, so I don't particularly see them, is watching it. So yeah,
It's tough. It's tough. So there's nothing I want to add now because I've usually, when I remember, get back to it. In answer to that question. Next question: which character do you think most needs a song in a coming episode? I've always wanted a Lapis song, personally. I feel like that could be quite powerful. I feel like she's a character whose exact thoughts and motivations are never as clear as the other characters, and this show always has a really good way of making a character's motivations and dreams and hopes and fears come through in a song. So I would like a Lapis song, personally.
I want an Alanis Morissette style angsty song from Lars.
Yes, I would. A Lars song. Please forget my previous answer. I want a Lars song. No, I've got an even better one. Onion. I want an Onion song. Onion immediately.
Yeah, but even. But I tell you what though, I'd stay Lars over Onion and over someone like the Cute Blue one, because I kind of know what those songs look like.
Yes.
I don't know what a Lars song would look like, because you could go down the grungy, emo, My Chemical Romance route, or you could have Lars on his own be a bit of a sensitive soul and give him an Ed Sheeran-esque song. Like, either one of those, I believe. So when a character could have either a Nirvana song or an Ed Sheeran song, I kind of want to see what the writers are going to come up with for his song.
You know what? That's actually a really good point. The Onion answer was more of a joke, but you're right. Lars would be great. Lars is a really strong choice.
At first it was, and then I thought about it. And I was like, actually, that's my answer. Like,
yeah. Which voice actors are the best and worst, and why? I don't know about worst, because the show has such a good voice cast, but I will say my favourite voice actors, Shelby Rabara, Peridot. She gives Peridot such a weirdly human and understandable approach to when she says mean things, or like, you know what it is? It's look at it could have been great. The way she says those lines about, this colony could have been amazing, and she's forgetting the fact that would have killed all the people on the planet and all the life on the planet and stuff. It's just like professional excitement. It's not, there's no humanity in what she's saying, not because she's not caring, it's just because she's not seeing it from that angle at all in that moment. She's just impressed at the scale and the achievement of it, and the way that Shelby reads it, you understand that. Because otherwise, if you had a lesser voice actor doing that, Peridot would sound like a monster. She would sound like Claw from Inspector Gadget. Do you know what I mean? And we would destroy everyone on the Earth, and it would be great. It would. Do you know what I mean? It would be like, it's a proper it would be a very much more traditional villain approach. But the humanity that Shelby brings to it, and that weird giddy excitement she brings to when Peridot says things that are incorrect, and also the humanity she brings when Peridot just simply does not understand the social things. She humanizes that character in a way that I swear, without that voice actress, you would genuinely struggle to, one, find Peridot funny, and two, find her any way redeemable. She would come across as a monster with a lesser voice actress at the helm, and I do think she does an incredible job. In terms of singing, though, no one's beating Pearl, because, dear Lord, she has an incredible voice. I've forgotten the actress's name off the top of my head, but she does an incredible job.
I think I don't think there is a worst. I think they're all great, apart from maybe Onion, lazy prick. I'm joking, obviously. That's actually probably a lot harder to do than you'd think. Looking at
there
it,
you go. It's Dee Magnohall. I remembered.
Oh, cool.
It was on the tip of my tongue the whole time for Pearl. I was like, what? Carry on.
I suspect Onion's actually quite difficult. There is no worst. I think one of the best is the person who plays Amethyst. I think that Amethyst has vocally shown an insane amount of range, from sheer anger, zany excitement, humour. I think the delicate upset, tenderness, and all the characters have had to show this, but I think Amethyst has hit a lot of emotions. Maybe maybe not. Maybe they've all shown the same range, but I think she's had to show.
Yeah.
I think she's had to hit different points in that range, whereas like Pearl is even. This sounds. I don't mean this to sound derogatory. They are all brilliant. Please understand me. But I think if you think about Pearl's Pearl or Pearl's pining for Rose. And we have had Aunt Crazy Pearl and all that kind of stuff. But Amethyst, I can point to episodes where she's been the comic relief. I can point to episodes where she's been angry. I can point to episodes where she's been depressed. And there's a lot of beats there that actress has had to hit. Whose name is?
Michaela Dietz.
There you go. So that's, yeah. But no one's bad.
Yeah, no one's bad. There are some that are a bit more just sort of generic. Like I mean, Jasper is what Peridot could have been. Just quite.
That's how Jasper's written, to be fair.
Yeah, but again, some of the Peridot's lines could be perceived that way as well. But yeah, you're right. Peridot's written with an intentional redemptive arc. I agree on the whole with what you said there. Yeah, no, absolutely, that is definitely. But I just think and it is hard to get nuance into that character because the character seems pretty straightforward in that sense. But it's not a worst situation. It's just there's less to do with that character. It's pretty straightforward. So that voice actor shines less. I think that's that's the unfortunate, and the unsung hero really is Greg, right? Like, I mean, I think Tom Sharpling does such a good job with Greg that and he is a bit of an unsung hero in the show voice wise. I think he does an incredible job, again, humanizing a character that otherwise would come across like a bum.
I think even character wise, he's a bit of an unsung hero. They've certainly in recent episodes they've made Connie is the human that's the fighter. So Connie's the one you want battling with you. You know, where's Greg's role?
Yeah.
I should say, feel free, guys, to answer some of the questions like that. It's a great question, and it's a great question to answer yourself, and chat with each other in the comments. About these kind of things. Yeah.
Do it. So that was from Monty Boosh. Q-Jerays next. So this one is from Terrible Person, and the question is: there's a bug on my window.
Nice. Get rid of it safely, and if you can avoid harming the bug, don't harm the bug.
Great. Q-Jeray. Next question. That's amazing. This one's from... I'm worried I pronounced this incorrectly, but I'm going to give it a good old go. Frank Genovese. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. Has a handful of questions, a little bit like Monty Boosh. We'll just try and fly through them if we can. Chris, say lapis. Even just once. For me, it hurts my soul when you say lapis. Oh, that hurts. That hurts my soul to hear that it bothers you that much. I feel like this is like, I feel like we're in an abusive relationship with our listeners sometimes, Chris. when we just refuse to do things they want. So, Chris, are you willing to pronounce lapis correctly?
To be fair, that question was written before my cute blue one solution. So,
and also in the episode when you do the cute blue one solution, you do actually say lapis correctly once in that episode.
Yeah, I think I've got it now, and it's a toss-up between, Do
you keep the joke going of the cute blue one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because I'm pretty sure it's lapis.
Yeah, man, that's pretty it. That's yeah, you got it. That's
It's basically, by the way, and this is the problem, Dan. You never, and you can trawl through the episodes, and maybe you will find a clip of you doing this. To me, I don't remember a point where you went, Chris, it's not an F, it's a P, lapis. And that would have probably done it for me. I don't remember you breaking it down that simply.
Yeah, until the episode where it really came up because you kept doing the cute blue one thing and even getting that wrong. And then I did say lapis, like with a P, not an F. Yeah, you're right, but I think it was because, well, I mean,
yeah, and that's when I got it. That was the episode you've just mentioned. Finally
you're right.
Getting
you're absolutely
it.
right. Maybe it was my fault all along that you couldn't pronounce lapis. You want to talk about an abusive relationship? You talk about relationships where one person makes the other person feel like everything's their fault. just saying. What my favourite thing was, though, that Chris, and I don't know if I pointed this out to you or not yet, but there was a run of episodes where at the end of the description of the episode, I just kept putting, and Chris still can't pronounce lapis. This week we talk about this and this, and Chris still can't pronounce lapis. I did it for weeks. Yeah. Anyway.
I apologise if it's caused anyone annoyance. I will either try and stick with either cute blue one or lapis.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Dan and Chris, if you could see any guest star on the show for any particular fusion, which would it be? I have an answer if you don't mind me going first, Chris.
Yeah, no, of course.
I think that if Steven and Pearl fuse, Bo Burnham.
That would be great.
Bo Burnham, just, yes. Because when you think about how sassy Sardonyx is, the Garnet Pearl fusion, and sort of like, you could do a little bit of that, but then you throw in a bit of Steven's awkwardness, you've got Bo Burnham. So I think Bo Burnham has got to be cast that way.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So that's my one. That's my answer. I don't know if you've got any.
I'll take, just thinking about it now, I'll take Stephen and Greg, voiced by Patton Oswalt.
Holy shit. I nearly just spat my tea out. Wow. Yeah, you nailed it.
That'd be good.
That's incredible.
That's a good. I'm pleased to think of that. I mean, I can't think. That's kind of a jokey. It's not a jokey answer, but it's not a serious think it through what voice would fit. Like it's like yours. It's kind of it's being voiced by a comedian, but I think actually that would work. I think that makes sense.
What's amazing about that is,
and he's a great voice actor.
Yeah, and you look at the range he's shown in the different stuff he's done. Like, you look at how he was in Happy recently, where he played like a really sort of giddy, excitable, naive, childlike character. And then you think of shows where he's played a more schlubbly father-type character like Greg. Like, that could... So what's annoyed me there, Chris, is I've had essentially a month to think of my answer. And I was quite proud of it, but ultimately I've had a month. You come up with a better answer in way less time. So in a weird way, Chris, fuck you.
What's annoyed me is I said thinking about it now and then gave the answer, and then I went, oh, it's actually a really good answer, I'm really proud of that. No one's going to believe I thought about it on the spot, but I genuinely did come up with that on the spot.
I don't believe for a second that you would have read or looked at these questions before.
And we've just watched. Listeners of NBS will know. We've been to the point where, like, I almost reference it every week now. It's my benchmark for TV this year. We've talked a lot about Happy. So in terms of thinking of voice actors, Patton Oswalt is very much in my mind.
Yeah. So, but that's perfect. Really good job. That's really clever. The next question from Frank Genovese. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Really, Frank, if I'm not, feel free to yell at me in the comments. Completely, you're getting a free pass right now to call me all the names under the sun, where I will not judge you at all, because I am almost definitely mispronouncing your surname, and I feel bad about that. Next question, though, is what do you think is in the chest in Lion's Mane? So obviously we just watched Bismuth, and we talked a little bit about the fact that they set up a handful of items in that mane early on in Lion 3 straight to video, of which Stephen did not investigate at the time. We questioned that at the time. One of which is there is a chest that I think he tried to open but couldn't. Am I remembering that rightly? Am I remembering that correctly?
I can't remember.
Rightly. I think I'm remembering that correctly, because I think didn't it... I'm either remembering... I'm not going to say this in case it's from a future episode. It could be from a past episode. I seem to remember him acquiring a key and then not being sure what it belonged to. That might be from a future episode.
I can't remember.
Oh, I've either just accidentally spoiled something, or I've said a thing from a past episode.
No, it's fine, because I'm trying to guess what's in the chest. So I was trying to think of that, so I wasn't particularly
it's locked in the chest, so it's obviously.
I was distracted.
It's obviously another video, but one containing stuff that Greg and Rose would definitely not want Stephen to see.
Well, that's your guess.
No.
So Greg and Rose sexting.
I just thought that was a funny answer. I don't really.
I don't know, because my first thought was like her dress or something, but then why would that be locked? And also, logically, it's something she's put in there.
Also, I think her clothes are a part of her light form.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So they wouldn't that wouldn't exist.
Well, I suppose no, because why would you not just bubble? What would you not bubble? What would you lock away?
So it probably isn't a gem of some kind, because
yeah. So that rules out danger. I think not bubbling it rules out something dangerous. So that would suggest something sentimental. You'd assume
that's fair.
Something connected to Greg.
Yeah.
Or it's a shrine to Pearl, and she returned her feelings all along. You know, Hey Arnold.
The reason I laughed at that is because
Arnold shrine.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Yeah. The reason I laughed when you said that is because that would be the cruelest thing in the world, that she made Pearl basically feel second best forever when she actually had feelings for her. If that was true, Rose would officially be the worst person on the planet. I don't know, actually. I don't remember reading this question originally. I guess it maybe just got lost in the shuffle because I was too busy thinking about, my voice actor fusion thing. But, oh man.
Something sentimental.
Yeah, it's got to be, but I'm thinking what? I feel like I should be able to put my finger on like an object that's been of importance in the past being stored in there.
What if it was something sentimental from Homeworld? So, not even something related to Earth. It was like a piece of... And that's why it's not just out. It's not bubbled because it's not dangerous, but she doesn't like to think about Homeworld in positive terms. So she has something from Homeworld that's locked away to, to not be... It's not out like the video was, but equally it's not poofed, so it's not dangerous. So maybe it's something sentimental, but something she doesn't want to... something sentimental that she still wants to hide away.
Oh, I've got a theory that I can't say. Oh, I've just built a theory in my head and now I can't say what it is because...
Does it build on that idea?
No, not quite. No, I went different.
No, I wasn't listening to whatever you were saying.
Well, I was. I like the sentimental thing. It's just that as you were saying that, I started thinking, what would I honestly think is in there? And then my brain went down a path that led me to a theory. But the theory I can't.
Will you put your theory in the description to this video so people can read it?
No. Is there any way? Could you just take your headphones off for a second, Chris, so you can't hear me, and I'll quickly say it. Would that work?
How am I going to hear? Should I just 30 seconds? You want?
Let me set a timer so I know that I have to finish talking by.
Well, I'll just roughly guess 30, 40 seconds, and then I'll put my headphones on. But I will start because you'll still hear me, so I'll start saying, "Putting my headphones on." And
okay, yeah, gotcha. So I'll shut
because I still won't be able to hear you, but you should be able to hear me.
Yeah, I will do. So. Yeah. Okay, fine, cool.
Okay,
ready?
Cool.
Let me know when you've done
I'll
it.
Take my headphones off now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking my headphones off now.
Great. Okay, I'm pretty convinced that potentially proof that Rose didn't kill Pink Diamond is in there somehow, some form of proof or evidence of that, and she's locked it away because she is intentionally made it seem like she did that to save and protect the remaining crystal gems and Earth, but she didn't really do that, and the proof of it's in there, which she doesn't want getting out, which is why she hid it in a chest in Lion's Mane. Boom. Theorized what might be in the main. What that proof would be, I do not know, but that's what I think might potentially be in there. Said it as quick as I could. Now Chris should be back any second. Chris, I'm can you hear me, Chris? He can't hear me.
Putting headphones back.
Do it.
On.
Come back.
Now.
Come back. I'm good. I got it out in the time. I even had a few seconds to spare where I went, can you hear me, Chris?
All right. No, I didn't. Well, I could hear I knew you were talking, but I couldn't hear what you were saying, and I heard it raise slightly, so I was like, oh, maybe he's yelling at me.
Okay. Yeah, good. Okay, cool. That's
cool.
I got it out. That's good. I'm glad I got to include that, because when that hit me, I thought that's actually a pretty neat idea. Anyway, I've gone through that very quickly, but I would have elaborated in more detail otherwise, but that's probably good for the length of this thing, because it's already fucking huge and we're barely getting there. Anyway,
it's all good. Don't worry, man.
Favorite season of the show? Hard to judge at this stage. We're only 3 in of 5. I'm liking this one. I'm liking season 3 a lot.
I think three's been great, actually. I think three's been really good. Three's not had any obvious duds, because even was the Uncle Grandpa one, season 2?
Yeah. It was Uncle Grandpa's early season 2, the way we watched it, yeah.
Yeah, so I think season 3.
Yeah?
I think they've done a great job of fleshing out the world, but not changing the format.
Yeah, I would agree. I think season 3 is
Directly contradicting my show more Peridot answer earlier, but still.
Chris, are you ready to feel the hell of waiting months on end for even just a morsel of new content once you're caught up? I don't think you'll ever be ready for that, Chris. I don't think you understand the pain of the Steven Universe fan at present.
I think, yeah, and it's weird, because, is it 30 episodes?
We've got 30 left. We should be caught up around July or August by...
wow, so that's 15 weeks then?
Roughly.
So, and even if they did a massive bomb, that would still probably only add, 5 weeks to the podcast. So,
you
still there?
Yeah.
So
I was agreeing with you.
You're looking at probably being caught up, potentially maximum 20 weeks. So that's about 5 months, is it? Yeah. No, wait. Yeah. 20 divided by 4 is 5. Fucking that took me way too long.
Are you feeling okay?
Yeah, sorry. So that's 5 months. So, it just when you put it in that context, doesn't sound like that. That I thought we were closer than that. But then again, I suppose if we race ahead, we could easily. We've been at points. We've been 3 months ahead, so we could easily reach that a lot sooner than that. So. Yeah, it feels like at the moment I'd be able to take that, but I've been in a very spoiled position of having new episodes every week, So I think I'm excited because the other thing is, whilst it's fresh hell for you guys, I'll be able to read all the comments. I'll be able to have theorizing discussions. There will be things I will then be able to do, which I think will make that a bit easier. But then if months and months go by, it would get more difficult. And obviously there's a question of what on earth we would do. Certainly, I imagine potentially go back to one a week.
That question comes up on this, so we'll get to that in a minute. I've got an idea about how we're going to go forward with that. But so what you're saying basically is you're both trepidatious and excited about the prospect because for you, unlocks a whole new version of this podcast where it's a lot more open and a lot less. I can't say this because Chris is going to get spoiled. And at the moment, and you can read the comments without fear of spoilers and look at YouTube theorizing videos and be more part of the community.
Yeah, at the moment there's a lot of positives to catching up, but I'm fully expecting that to then become painful, especially when it's not even like, in September we'll get more, especially with all the scheduling madness.
Yeah, because we just literally don't know when next episodes will happen. We're just in the dark. It's a nightmare. Anyway, last question from Frank Genovese. Would either of you try guacola, even just to know what it tastes like? Do you remember guacola, Chris?
No, can you remind me what that is?
Guacola was the avocado-based solo that Marty tried to shill in Drop Beat Dad. During Sour Cream's gig, he puts cans out, and everyone shows up and everyone's spitting it out, and it's supposed to be horrible. Apparently, it has all the nutritional value of 3 avocados. The label apparently claims that the soda is from concentrate and has a very sloppy, mushy consistency. Sounds horrendous.
I'd try it
because in my head it's fizzy. It's fizzy guac, and slightly more liquidy. That sounds horrendous.
I mean, I'd probably still try it. We were talking at work the other day of a colleague is so scared of frogs, and I was like, $5,000, I put a frog in your hand, and she was like, no, and that seemed madness to me. Of course, you'd hold a frog for $5,000, and I'd eat some guac for probably 20 quid. So yeah, I probably would drink it.
Yeah, I'm a fussy eater, so no is my answer. I would not.
Oh yeah, you are. You're like, there's too much cheese on my pizza.
The cheese to sauce bread meat ratio has to be just right, Chris. You can overdo it.
But yeah, you're just right. I think is a lower threshold for cheese than most people's good. And is it onion or garlic you really don't like? It's onion, isn't it?
It's onion. I hate onion. I can't do onion. Yeah. Onion is not the character for the show, but onion, the substance, is the devil. Hate it.
I see.
And it's in so many meals. You can't avoid it. It's horrendous how much it's used.
Yeah, yeah.
I can sniff it out in a recipe a mile away. Like, it'll be even the tiniest part of the ingredient. Excuse me, I just burped.
You must have, like, out of politeness to a friend or something, had to have eaten a bit of onion. Like,
I've eaten lots of onion in my lifetime. I don't like it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had to. It comes up all the time where like meals are served and they've got onion involved. Onion gravy is the biggest culprit of that. Or like like things like bolognese and stuff where it's like a lot of things chopped into it. Like onion is a part of that, and I will have to eat it, but I will the onion will not. I do not react well to the onion. I don't appreciate the onion.
I don't like fish, and that's a much easier, broader
thing to avoid.
I don't eat fish.
Well, yeah, I'm very unlucky that my taste has led me to not liking onion. So yeah, I'm not a particularly big fan of avocados and guac. So yeah, I would probably just avoid guacola. Also,
so what's your money? $1,000. Would you drink a can?
Do I have to drink the whole can, or am I trying it?
You cannot start this by bleating to listeners about how much money this costs us, and then not take $1,000 for drinking some guac.
No, wait, no, wait, because because here's the reality of it. Presumably, like we're going by I'm a celeb rules, where I've got to hold it down, right?
No, I think if you throw up, that's as long as you don't force yourself to throw up. You can't force yourself to throw up.
But if I struggle to keep it down because it's that gross, I'm not gonna lose, am I? And lose my money. I have to actually. And is it the whole can, or do I just have to try it?
I think you have to for £1,000 in this fictional game show. You have to drink
a weird
the can.
Game show.
If after you swallow it, you're then ill through not trying to make yourself ill, then that's fine. You still get the $1,000, but you do have to drink the whole can. You get £1,000.
It would have to be more than 1,000, I think, because I'm gonna throw up.
Okay. Wow. Fair enough.
I really don't want to have to drink that because I already would struggle. Like I don't like guac at all, so I'd struggle just with guac, like in general. You'd make
guacamole's got onion in as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I know. And again, I've tried it. I did not react well to it. Didn't like it. So yeah, that's the last. You got anything to add to the guacola discussion, or am I moving us on?
What if it was for someone else? So, like, Nadia really wants a gift, and you can't buy it for her. But if you drink the can of guac, she can get the gift.
I would certainly be more likely to try.
Okay, it's not a gift she needs. It's just a gift she wants.
I'd still be more likely to try.
Yeah.
Because
for
my own suffering, it's just for my own benefit. It's just not. I don't care that much about me being more comfortable. Do you know what I mean?
I love the way you don't think Nadia could benefit from you getting £1,000.
You're right. I did not think about that, did I?
Pretty sure you live together, and she'd find that just as beneficial as you would.
Why did that not occur to me?
Pretty sure you could buy her a gift with $1,000. Right.
Next question. So, Frank Genovese Cujares. Next question. Andrew Stalker, who, on the last Q&A, we forgot to name after his question.
Sorry, Andrew.
Sorry about that. It was the only one we forgot to name. We're terrible people. So he's got two. Firstly, and more importantly, what, if any, plans do you guys have about when you inevitably catch up to the show? Are you going to have other content to put up on Tuesdays and Fridays? We've talked about this, and I think we might have even mentioned it in an episode. But the current thought is we might do. It'll probably go down to one a week during that time until we have a new actual Steven Universe episode to talk about. But what we might do is once a week do a re-review or a revisit on episodes from the early show with full Chris knowing what's going on, and
yeah, I think
we sort of asked if people would want to vote on what episodes they'd want, but Chris didn't like that idea because he was concerned they'd all just choose cat fingers. Pause while Chris does his usual.
Yeah, or you could do we could do that. We could do like this week we're going to talk about Peridot, or some Q&As. I think there's options. I think it probably would be one a week. I think the counter benefit to one a week would be we would aim, and I can't promise this if they drop 20 episodes, but we would aim to, if we caught up, I think we would aim to release new episodes as close as we could and in the same fashion as Cartoon Network release new episodes. In other words, if they dropped a bomb of 5, I don't know if you'd have to then wait 5 weeks to hear those 5 episodes.
Oh, any new episodes,
drop them in the same way.
Yeah, new episodes we try to drop as close to their drop as possible. So we would then go to 2 or more a week just to get through those, and then get back to doing one a week while we wait.
We would aim to emulate. We would aim to copy whatever schedule Cartoon Network were using. Much harder if they dropped 20 episodes on the app, obviously. But yeah, I think certain episodes rewatching, and yeah, I'd take that episode opinions from fans of what episodes we should rewatch, and I think you could, like I say, you could do a Peridot episode. You could do news if news comes out about the show. Rebecca Sugar says something, we could theorize about that. I think it's like I say, it's potentially quite exciting.
Yeah, I agree. There's no definite plans then, I suppose, is the answer, but there is. That's the sort of direction we're going in, basically.
We don't intend Fringe Observers. I know Fringe Observers isn't an active show, but Fringe Observers, we watched all the episodes, we stopped the podcast. I don't think for 1 minute either of us have ever thought we would just stop the podcast and pick it up when they released more episodes. We would continue to release weekly content.
But it might not be under the Steven Universe banner. It might be listed as bonus episodes, or might have a different name, like Steven Universe Re-Review, or whatever we call it. Yeah. There'd be more content, though. We wouldn't stop doing content. Because essentially, what's really weird, Chris, and I never thought this would happen, we started this YouTube channel essentially to launch our web series, Writing Space. And we've somehow become Steven Universe YouTubers.
Yeah.
Really weird.
But it's happened very naturally.
It has. So yeah, we'll keep releasing Steven Universe related content, and maybe even once that's happened, we can do some of the other stuff we talked about doing, which is taking Chris through another animated show in the gaps. Maybe that's the answer.
Yeah.
So maybe like we talked about maybe Avatar or Rick and Morty or something like that. So there's other options.
Yeah. Yeah. But we wouldn't be stopping, I think, is the key message.
Yeah, Steven Universe content will continue on this channel while it's of interest to everyone and us. When the show ends, then it might be harder. That might be the point we sort of peter out, because I don't know what we would do. Yeah, I think you
probably have to.
Yeah, because once the show itself has finished, like Fringe, it's a bit like there'll be nothing more to discuss. So we do a bunch of content around the final episode, and then we would probably slow down or peter out or stop altogether. Maybe occasionally coming back to do if anything else comes out about it. Like, like when JK revealed after the books, that like Dumbledore was gay or something, like if there was a moment like that where Rebecca Sugar added some context after the fact to something, we might do a quick video where we sort of talk about our thoughts on that. But yeah, we'd have to. I don't think we'd ever have a final. We're done with Steven Universe video. This is like the last one sort of thing, but it would naturally peter out once the show does. So within a few years, presumably, we'd be looking at sort of slowing down and stopping because the show would. But other than that, yeah, the goal is very much to keep going. We have no interest in not doing that at the moment. We're enjoying the Steven Universe content very much so.
Yeah, definitely. But I think in that scenario, fans would be way more upset about the show ending as opposed to our podcast.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because a lot of people have been saying that we've helped them get through the hiatus. So which is very sweet and very nice to say, and I think that's it. And to be honest with you, this show has helped me get through the hiatus, so I'm with you, because I think if I wasn't rewatching the episodes and talking about them like this, I'd be in a Steven Universe sort of like funk right now. I'd be really like depressed at the lack of content we were getting, regularly anyway. So yeah, that's so this has helped me too, guys. So I'm right there with you. So yeah, thank you for anyone who said that, because I think that means a lot when we hear that.
Yeah, it's very sweet thing to say.
A lot of people, I guess, would think that us continuing would help fill that little Steven Universe shaped hole. But then again, if we continued after the show had ended, I really don't know what more there would be to say. But yeah, that's that. We'll have to see where we are when we get there. Second question from Andrew Stalker. I'm going to move on. Unless you got anything you want to add, Chris, to that point.
No, I'm good, yeah.
Cool. Secondly, more of a joke, but for real, what's the deal with the Patreon shout-out? Did you only do it that one time specifically to mess with me? No, we didn't do it specifically to mess with you the one time. We did it the one time, forgot for a long time, because we're idiots. We're getting back on it now. We've done one recently, and we'll continue to do it sparingly when we can. The problem is we only have a handful of patrons, so we would have to do it. If we did one a week, we'd be done very quickly. So
it's sporadic. We got a new patron on Friday though, which is awesome. And I can't keep that up. It was me.
I have never been more confused than when I got an email saying I had a new Patreon, and when I clicked on it, it was Chris. I was like, "What are you doing?"
It's because I signed up to Patreon and I just felt guilty that I wasn't supporting Nothing But Static, and I was archiving all our podcasts.
And you went for the lowest option, cheap bastard.
I did, yeah. I'm not stupid. My favourite bit about that, by the way, was you said you went $2. I mean, you'd get half of that back, and I just thought, why would you not give me it all back? You're like, well, if you're dumb enough to become a patron, I'm taking half.
Yeah, that's how it works. We're splitting the funds. You basically just giving me about $1 a month.
We will bring those shout outs back. And actually we did do some shout outs on Nothing But Static as well, which you might not have heard if you don't listen to all of it. So
I don't think I was really unsure about how to do it as well, because we have 3 podcasts and people supporting us on Patreon do it for different podcasts they listen to, not necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's really tricky for that reason as well. And I also am scared I'm going to repeat myself, and because I might have forgotten who we did. I don't even remember who we did the very first time, truthfully. Honestly.
No, I don't.
Which means that there's a chance I could end up shouting out a person twice, because again, it's a very small group of people. But thank you to those people who do that. You are genuinely making a big difference to how easy it is to.
Oh, it's brilliant! It's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that one. Next question. We're moving on to Jay Bleichman. Bleachman? Not sure. Once again, feel free. You've got a pass. You can call me all the names under the sun under the next video. You can just abuse. That's fine. Has either of you seen the DuckTales reboot, and what do you think of it? Chris?
I haven't. That's weird that a question was on it, and I referenced DuckTales earlier. I haven't, but I didn't see the original either, because burn. But I believe Dan has and is watching it. So Dan, what did you think?
Yeah, I love it. I'm an episode or 2 from having seen all of it, because I've been watching it with my girlfriend when we've got a moment, and we've recently gotten a bit addicted to American Crime Story, the Versace series. So we are, and we've started rewatching Arrested Development, which is glorious, and like it's there's a lot of it. So yeah, we are currently slowly making our way back through that show as well, and it's kind of delayed us finishing DuckTales. Mostly, I'll be honest with you, mostly powering through it on the excitement of me getting to Darkwing Duck again, because I know they're bringing Darkwing Duck into it at some point. I don't think it's happened yet. I think it's happening in the upcoming season. But Darkwing Duck is one of my all-time favorite cartoon characters, and the idea that they're bringing back DW through the DuckTales show is the most exciting thing for me. So I'll be honest with you, I really like it, and it's deeper than I ever imagined they could make DuckTales. And the comedy is absolutely on point, but it's not the same as, like, I don't get the same thing out of it that I get out of like a Steven Universe or an Avatar. I don't think it necessarily works on the same level as traditional television drama. Like, that's what's so impressive about when you look at like a show like Avatar: The Last Airbender, even a show like Rick and Morty or BoJack, or even Steven Universe. What's amazing is they're achieving things that there are dramas that physically can't get their heads around and make work. You know, they're achieving some incredible storytelling on top of being funny, fun, entertaining cartoons. So I'm getting 2 layers out of it. I'm getting that initial sort of just entertainment value, but also something much deeper and more interesting, and more thought-provoking. DuckTales has been edging in that direction in the episodes I've seen, but it hasn't quite got there yet, and that might just be they're building to it sort of thing. but it doesn't have the depth of a Steven Universe, and it doesn't have the depth of an Avatar: The Last Airbender. So that's the reason it's taken Darkwing Duck to make me catch up, because even though I was really enjoying it, the characters are hilarious. It's one of the cleverest attempts at a reboot I've seen. All the decisions they've made to rework the characters, redesign them, reimagine how the show works have been perfect, because they've kept the spirit of the original show, but they've moved it on in all the right ways. The cast are incredible, genuinely one of the best voice casts in animation, and it is a genuinely wonderful show. I didn't get quite the same thing out of it as I got out of Steven Universe, which is why I didn't initially power through it as quickly as I would have liked to. That and having to watch it with Nadia, which is always a gamble, because we sit down at night and it's like, what do you want to watch? I ask her that question, and it is just potluck whether I get to continue watching the show I'm most interested in watching or not. I give her.
It does amaze me, because
she gets the.
You guys do genuinely rewatch Arrested Development every couple of years. Like, I love your commitment to that.
It's one of our favourite shows, and it's a show that we discovered together. There aren't many shows we've discovered together. Usually I watch ahead of a show, and then then I watch it again with her. When I'm like, I've watched it. It's definitely worth your time. Whereas this is one we watched from day one together, so it's become a weird little tradition that we watch it. And we both love it. It's one of our favourites.
Yeah, that's fair. DuckTales, though, strikes me as a show that's good to binge watch anyway. So saving them up for bulk and, like... Yeah. I'm doing that more and more these days with light-hearted stuff. I bulk watched... well, it sounds stupid because it was available for me to bulk watch, but American Vandal, The Orville, Curb Your Enthusiasm, those light-hearted shows for me, they tend to be more sitcoms. But I think sitcoms and animation lend themselves to the bulk watching.
Did you finish Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Sorry, is it because there's a Hamilton reference? Should I have immediately phoned you after watching it and discussed the Hamilton stuff?
The next question is from Dan Doolan. What did you think of the Hamilton stuff at the end of Curb? Thanks, Dan. Great question. Chris, what did you think?
This is Curb season 9 for those that haven't seen it. I thought it was great. I thought the dude, I can't remember his name.
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I thought he set himself up brilliant. Sended himself up, whatever the phrase is, as everyone does on Curb. But I thought he did it particularly well. I thought they did a great job of, like, even if you've not seen, when I knew they were doing the Hamilton stuff, because you had excitedly told me twice, I wondered whether it would be...
No bitterness in that, everyone, just so you know.
Hey, we all know about Danilton. When are you seeing it?
End of this month, end of March. I cannot wait. I've been waiting to see the show for like 3 years. I'm finally seeing it in like 3-4 weeks. I can't wait. 30 or 31st of March.
I wondered whether you'd need to see the show, whether they'd make it too introspective, but they didn't. And even though, like, I've not seen Hamilton, I knew enough about it to find the songs that were sort of riffing on Hamilton in his Farquhar musical amusing and funny. And I thought it was very, very clever.
And the ending in the duel, obviously, Hamilton famously deals with duels and a very particular one. The idea of his whole rivalry with Larry David ending in a paintball duel is perfect in a way I legitimately cannot describe.
And I love, like, because it's almost like, and I guess you'd have to ask Larry David, but he's always been very clear that unless he's got a good idea, he won't bring the show back. And kind of seasons, the last few seasons, I believe 7 was Seinfeld, 8 was New York, and it kind of feels like 9 was Farquhar and Hamilton. And I'd love to know whether he went, I'm going to bring the show back and I'm going to do this, or whether he saw Hamilton and went, I've got a story to bring Curb back with, or whether he was like, right, I'm going to bring Curb back. What should I do? Oh, Hamilton. Like, because you get the feeling it was probably that he saw the show and that inspired the show, which is how it should be.
Yeah, that's very possible. I also thought there was a chance that maybe it was a bit of both. That he'd had the idea for the Fatwa musical, started writing the season, and then gone, wouldn't it be great if we merged this into a Hamilton thing? Because he'd seen Hamilton, and so maybe it was a bit of both. Like, he had the Fatwa idea ahead of time, and so he knew he had something, a hook for his new season, and then he sort of worked in Hamilton because it fit really nicely.
And fair play to Lyndon Manuel for doing it, because he didn't need to. Like,
Lin-Manuel doesn't need to do anything. He could literally. I mean, he's in the new Mary Poppins film this year. He wrote the music for Moana. Like the man will just keep making money as a hand over fist for whatever he does forever now. I mean, he's literally set forever. He will work until the day he dies, like if he wants to. So he doesn't need to do anything. But I suppose Curb has a certain prestige to it these days. A lot of people want to be involved in Curb, so there's an element of that. But you're right, Lin-Manuel actually stepping into it is really like that was I think he did and he does a great job, a really good job.
Yeah,
playing like an arsehole version of himself because he's actually lovely. But it's good.
I loved it. It's like I said in the podcast, we do on the Nothing But Static. We do the Statics every year when we give shows awards, and I tell you, best comedy is a tight competition between Crashing and Curb at the moment.
Really is. Yeah, it's really, really tight. And Atlanta's just started at back end as well, and it's amazing. So that's going to be a tough one. And I suppose this season of Master of None was within this year as well, wasn't it?
No, because we gave the finale best episode, I believe, or it was.
So that aired in time for last year's Statics. Okay, fair enough.
That had aired, yeah.
Fair enough.
Thank God we don't need to deal with that political minefield.
Yeah. So thanks for the question, Dan, about Hamilton. That was a really good question. Yeah, great. Next question.
Really related to Steven Universe, I thought.
Q-Jure.
What do you keep saying?
Q'd your A.
What does that? What do you mean by that?
Question. Oh, it'd be AGQ. No.
Oh, I see. For a while, I thought you were saying username, and I was like, "What?" And now I'm with you. Q and it. Right. Cool. Carry on.
No, we haven't. I've been saying QJA this whole episode. I've been doing it.
Yeah,
backwards.
and for a while I thought you were saying username, and then I thought you were saying. I haven't really worked out what you were saying for the whole episode, and I just thought I'd ask then.
AGQ. I've got it right now. Cool. Dear Lord, an hour in, I've got it right. Shit. Anyway. Next question. Dear Lord, this has gone on for way longer than we could have possibly anticipated, and there's so much more. We'll get to start going for quick fire on some of these. Baby Shenanigans writes, I'm going to be demonetized and I'm feeling pretty defeated.
Hold on. I have to step in and speak for the fans this time. We have to rush their questions, but you can insert a question related to Hamilton. Which has no place in the Steven Universe.
Let's just say that we only talked about Hamilton for a couple of minutes. We are an hour and 15 minutes in. We have taken very long with all the previous questions. This is a marathon, not a sprint or something. I don't know.
It's a marathon with a sidestep to see Hamilton. A field trip no one was requesting.
And once again, Chris, I would point out that your pointing out of my delaying is making us delay even further. Just saying.
I'm alright with that. I feel like it might. Hey, again, voice of the people, Dan. Chris Billigan, voice of the people.
You are many things, Chris. The voice of the people is not one of them. Anyway, Baby Shenanigans writes, I'm going to be demonetized, and I'm feeling pretty defeated about it. I feel like this is entirely wrong move for YouTube to make. I understand why they're doing it, but I don't think they've thought it through from the perspective of someone who has a small channel. I've completely quit my second channel because why bother? So anyone who's listening to this, throw some love at Baby Shenanigans and go sub. I subbed immediately when I read that at the time. Baby Shenanigans sitting around 600 subs. If they can get to 1,000, they'd potentially be able to reapply. And they seem to put content up almost every day. So.
Wow, I think anyone do, especially if they're doing just sub to help, because if that's producing daily content is not an easy thing to do. So if someone's willing to produce daily content just because some people enjoy it, then that needs to be supported. I think there's nothing in the interest of time. There's nothing we didn't say in the original video about demonetization to add now, but it sucks, especially for the little guys. So yeah, absolutely. Any love you can give to Baby Shenanigans, please give. And I genuinely don't believe they wrote that comment for us to do that.
No, they were simply replying to our comments in the video. There's no real question in that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but just in case people can't remember that the original video did include a big bit on YouTube demonetization, I just want people to know that that's just a response to what we were talking about. But one thing we can do to help is to say go and subscribe and support.
Next question. AGQ. Got it right that time. IG64 says has 3 questions, one for me, one for you, then one for both. For Dan, what do you think of the new episodes? I can't talk too much because Chris is on the line, but I will say I think the first of the 2 newest ones that came out is a brilliant, incredible, surprising, great, amazing episode that does so much for a character, but they should not have shown as much of it as they had ahead of time, because all of that you can get from the clip they showed at Comic-Con, and therefore what's left in the episode when all that's revealed. Not sure. So as a single episode that you would hope somebody would watch outside of the context of all the marketing material, it's incredible. But when you include Cartoon Network's marketing material, that clip being chosen to be shown at Comic-Con, there's not much left in the episode to get something out of. So when I watched it, as excited as I knew what I was getting into, and yeah, not most of it I'd seen, but the thrust of it I was pretty clear on. The following episode is I was unsure at the time. I've rewatched and is pretty genius, pretty much a masterpiece. And we'll get to that on the show once we get to it. But yeah, I'm not even going to name those episodes because I think naming them even could potentially give away too much. Question for Chris: do you often have trouble pronouncing names, or are Steven Universe characters particularly tricky for you? Can I interrupt and just say all names, and then leave Chris to carry on?
I watch our top 10 Jim and Pam, top 5 Jim and Pam moments to hear me butcher the names of the actors involved.
John Krasinski.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, don't know what you were saying. Also, he's never ever correctly called J.J. Abrams J.J. Abrams. He calls him J.J. Abrahams.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know why he adds an extra syllable to that. Not sure. I've heard you. Yeah, I've heard Chris butcher so many names I've lost track of them all now. But yeah, it's.
You know what name I get right every time though?
Go on.
Daniel Frederick Doolan.
Yep, thank you. Except for that, you had an extra D to Doolan.
Oh yeah.
Daniel Frederick Dooland. So you can't even get my name right, Chris.
I think it's revenge because I'm. I think it's revenge because I'm Billingham and I've had a lifetime of people saying Billingham. It doesn't even. Yeah, it's HAM.
Final question.
So maybe it's just revenge.
Final question for both of us. I love that. I'm trying to move us on now. Just like can't win.
What do you mean? What are you saying? Can't win for?
Because I keep trying to move us on, and you continue making the point.
Yeah. I'm having a good time, Dan.
Me too. I'm conscious of how long this has gone on. For both, what are your thoughts on the show's longevity? How many seasons would you want? I'll be honest with you. By the time this Q&A is finished, we'll probably be 3 or 4 seasons more out. So it's hard to say.
I think there's a shelf life. I think.
Yeah, I agreed.
I think 7, 8 is a good place to stop. Probably, I would suspect.
Yeah. I feel a couple more years and then. Yeah, but it depends what Rebecca Sugar's plans are.
And it depends whether we talked about this on the Bismuth episode that's coming up. It depends whether if it's tell all the backstory and then done, then only a couple more years. If it's tell all the backstory and delve into new backstory or delve into a new event, then fine. But I think rarely do shows Supernatural's still going on, but people have criticised it for still going on because it wrapped up its story in 5. I think the best, if you've got a story, wrap up that story and get out.
Yeah, agreed. Rather than trying to continue it.
Yeah.
So I think in answer to the question, sort of on the show's longevity, I would like to see it last as long as Rebecca Sugar wishes for it to last, not to have Cartoon Network cut it short or force it to be longer, which isn't likely, but yeah.
No.
So as long as Cartoon Network give her the space to wrap up the story in her time frame, I'm happy for it to end whenever it needs to end. And it really depends on how she's tackling some of the plots that are happening present day, particularly regarding. I'm not going to say that because that'll spoil Chris. But there was one particular plot that seems to be sort of nudging us in the direction of an end game, or an end game is potentially in sight, maybe, depending on how they play it out. So yeah, it depends how it all plays out. But yeah, I've no particular in my head where I go 7 seasons will be just enough. I mean, that you'd feel another season or 2 from where we're at maybe would be perfect. But again, it depends really on what Sugar's plans are going forward.
Yeah, the the basic answer is, however, the show should last however long Rebecca Sugar wants it to last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So why don't you upload? Next question. Sorry, that one's from IG64. I might have said that. AGQ. Next question was from Slaughtered Round. Why don't you upload NBS episodes to YouTube? Not only would it be easier for new viewers to get into the podcast, but it would also help you get the watch time required for monetization. Plus, when I download the episodes through your website, the link's 404 20% of the time. Right. A few things I want to very quickly touch on there. First of all, we have no issue with watch time for monetization. We smash that record. They need 4,000 hours a year. We have something like 15,000 hours watched a year. So watch time is not a concern for us at all, mostly because we talk too much. Videos like this pretty much mean that watch time isn't a concern, because they go on forever and people will still... You guys are amazing. You still watch them, even though we think they're probably far too long. In terms of putting whole episodes on YouTube, that podcast came before the YouTube channel, and I think it feels more like a... Steven Universe suits the format more of YouTube than Nothing But Static as a podcast. So just putting up key segments has always felt right to us. So for the moment, the plan is to continue doing that. In regards to the links 404ing 20% of the time, I read that comment and went, I think that's an exaggeration. One or two have done that, and I've had to go back and correct them, but it's not 20%. So I actually went and looked, and I went through 10 episodes and found 2 that were 404ing. So 20% of the time is about as accurate from the sample I took as you could get. Wow. So I've gone back and fixed a bunch of links. The reason that happens, it's just the direct download link, and it's actually fixable without me fixing it from your perspective as a listener. Just look at the actual link itself. You'll probably find there's either an extra question mark or extra backslash in there, which if you just remove, you can work. It's just to do with the way I have to copy and paste the links through into the HTML of the site that happens, and I don't pay enough attention. I am now going forward testing every single one as I do it, because I didn't realize that was such an issue. I didn't realize my copying and pasting skills were that inaccurate prior to this comment. So I'm going to be more conscious of that because nobody was mentioning it before. So yeah, the player version was always working. The player one was always working. The iTunes one was always working. It was the direct download link that occasionally there'd be an extra slash in the link, so when you clicked on it, it would just 404 instead of taking you to the file. It's not always like extra backslashes, but you can usually see when you look at the link what the problem is, especially if you compare it to another link. But so if you ever come across that again, you can fix it yourself. But in terms of your viewing it, but it doesn't fix what link is physically on the page. So I will have to let me know if you come across any more, and I'll get to them. But you shouldn't have that problem now because I'm now conscious of it and fixing it.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it to our attention, and sorry it was happening. And I echo Dan's thoughts on pretty much all of that. I think I think it, in a way, I take your point, and I think it's awesome, and thank you for engaging with Nothing But Static and wanting it across both. But I think for the majority of our YouTube subscribers, being hit with an hour and a half podcast, I think that would potentially annoy more YouTube subscribers that don't have any interest in that than it would please them. I think is my, because they might think, have I got to listen to this hour and a half thing? So yeah, but thank you for engaging.
Yeah, I mean maybe that'll change. Maybe because I mean, to be fair, Steven Universe is probably our most successful, one of our most successful shows. So maybe that'll change in the future, and we'll reconsider. But at the moment, we have no plans to switch it or do it on both. It's currently still an iTunes and sort of RSS feed show only. You can also get it through the Google Play Store, I believe, and Stitcher and a few other services like that. I know that I've found it and been able to get to it through Overcast, which is weird because I don't think I ever submitted it to Overcast, so I don't know where Overcast found the show. But I use Overcast to listen to all my podcasts. I don't know if it just trolls for iTunes RSS feeds and pulls them. I'm not really sure where it gets its access from. It's not one you have to submit to, evidently, because I've never submitted to it, and yet all the shows that we do are on there, including Fringe Observers and MBS and Steven Universe University. Oh, wow. Also, the official Steven Universe podcast is on there. Harmontown is on there. The Chris Moyle Show, which is a British radio sort of best-of podcast from Radio X, that's up there. The Weekly Planet, which is probably my favourite podcast in the world right now, that's up there. Obviously Nerdist, any of the Kevin Smith sort of Smodcast, network podcasts are... Go on.
No, go on. Well, I was just correct. 1D IoT is the Nerdist now.
That's right. Sorry. Yeah. It's Nerdist changed their branding because he still owned the podcast, but someone else owns the Nerdist network, or Nerdist as a brand. So he's had to shift the title of the Nerdist podcast. I remember now. Yeah. So that those are all accessible through Overcast. So if anyone's looking for a good podcast app, I actually recommend Overcast. It's great.
Yeah, I think that the Comedian's Comedian is why we're naming podcast is on there as well. That's a British comedian interviewing stand-ups. That's a really good podcast as well.
Yeah. They're cool. I used to love as well the Indoor Kids, but that's gone away. It makes me sad. Anyway, final question. That last one was from Slaughtered Round. He has one little extra question: Opal versus Sugalite. I think in a fight, Opal outsmarts Sugalite. Sugalite's stronger, but uncontrollable and impulsive, and I think Opal's measured force and strategic approach would probably outdo Sugalite personally. And if you're talking about which character do I prefer, rather than doing the stupid childish thing of who would win in a fight, I prefer Opal to Sugalite.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I think that's partly because Opal's Pearl and Garnet, yeah?
No, Opal is Pearl and Amethyst.
Oh, okay. And Sugalite's
Sardonyx is Garnet.
Oh, Sardonyx, right.
And then Sugalite is Amethyst and Garnet. So
okay.
Amethyst
well,
is
it wasn't
in
your
both
question,
of
but
those fusions.
I really like Sugalite. I think they partly because they built a story around that fusion. I probably would agree with Opal in the choices you gave.
Mm-hmm. There you
go.
Cool. Do you have any plans on starting a new show after you finish the episodes you're dedicated to now? That's from somebody whose username is just James. Hello, James, with your one
James.
name. That's like, I feel like we've met a YouTube celebrity, just James.
He got there, or at least an early adopter.
Either an early adopter or there's some way. Oh no, the full username is James BG314. They obviously made it look like it's just James on the YouTube. Okay, but yeah, James says, "Do you guys have any plans on starting a new show after you finish the ones you dedicated to?" Now, a new podcast or a new TV show? I'm not sure what you mean. A new TV show, maybe. We've talked about doing Person of Interest in place of Fringe Observers, and we talked about hitting up Avatar once we finish this. But neither of those are definite plans, so it's just going to be how free we are and how interested we are, I guess.
Yeah, I think we had between there was a particularly big technical issue last year. There's like we've said, ear infections this year, and our increasing busyness otherwise. I think we really want to commit to dedicating some good time to Nothing But Static and Steven University at the moment. And I think we both feel that starting anything new, with the exception of the Patreon content, would potentially be risky, and would risk us burning out, would risk us getting stuff up late and all that kind of stuff. So we, it's not it is actually the opposite of a lack of commitment stopping us starting a new show. It's commitment to the shows we're already doing is stopping us from starting anything new.
Yeah. So there you go. AGQ. Next one. Has Chris rewatched early episodes from when he hated the show? Rewatched early episodes when he hated the show. Hated is in like quote marks, because obviously. Does he enjoy them now, or does he still feel they are silly? I don't think you've rewatched them, but do you feel differently about them now?
Oh, sorry, I hit the mic, I think then. I've rewatched the first one because I watched it with Jess. I've not rewatched any others because I think the plan of potentially rewatching stuff when we caught up came up quite early. So there's always been a sense of, well, I won't do that now because I might as well save that for the podcast. As to whether I feel different about them, I don't know. I'd have to rewatch them. I think my feeling is the show has grown as it's grown, if that makes sense. And I think those early episodes would potentially still feel quite young in a number of ways, but I'd have to rewatch them to properly determine that.
Yeah, fair enough. Another question from the same person. This is Ruben Caballero. I think I might be getting right. If not, again, free pass. Does Chris have any Steven Universe merch? Shirts, toys, soundtrack, etc.?
No, because of spoilers. I'd be tempted. I'd be tempted by the vinyl when caught
real
up.
good.
Partly because I love vinyls, but I'm in a weird position at the moment where, because we've, as mentioned earlier, we're living with folks to get a house. My vinyl player isn't plugged in, and I got it like that happened. Well, I got it as a Christmas present, and my birthday's early January when we moved back in. So I feel like I need to give some love to the vinyls I've got first. But I'd be tempted by the vinyl record, I think.
We tempted at all by
and
the
I'd
book?
be tempted. Yeah, I'd be slightly. I don't love, as a rule, those kind of more visual books. I prefer like them to potentially have. If you tell me there's a lot of behind the scenes content, if I flip
huge
through
amount.
it at yours, and I'm well, then yeah, I'd be tempted by the book as well.
The book is sort of a documentary on how the show came to be, with
Oh, then yeah.
artwork, because it basically tells the story page to page of like the development of it, with images from like early ideas and early stuff. Obviously, I'm assuming a fair amount of stuff omitted that would potentially hint at future things, things that we haven't gotten to yet. But there is a lot of there is a lot of behind the scenes stuff in the book. It's a really good book.
Cool.
If
Yeah,
those
I'd
are wondering,
be
it's
tempted
I
by
think
the
it's
book
what's
as
it called?
well.
Steven Universe, like art and that's gonna drive me mad now. I will look that up.
I think why is looking that up. I think it's not merch, but the thing I would do more is watch interviews with the creators. So have on in the background as I was doing something, one of the Comic-Con panels, maybe listen to the official podcast. I think I'd be anything peeking behind the curtain as opposed to like a t-shirt or something. I'd probably do that. And I know it's not merch, but it's engaging with the show with things other than the episodes.
It's Art and Origins.
Okay.
Steven Universe Art and Origins from Chris McDonnell. It's good. It's great. It's a great book. Yeah, I've always been tempted by the T-shirt with the star. Never bought one, but I feel like I should.
That'd be cool. The only tempting thing for something like that is the notion that someone down the street would see it, and it would be like you were in a secret club. Like they'd be like, "Oh, you're a fan," and it would potentially start a conversation with a stranger. But I tend not to wear just t-shirts out. Other than it has to be really hot for that. Otherwise, I'm a shirt and a t-shirt kind of guy. So
it's true. It's true. You are. I've also been tempted by The Answer, which is the comic book version of the episode The Answer, but with just this incredibly beautiful artwork. Yeah, I've been a bit tempted by that once or twice, because I just think that's a really cool way to do it.
I'd be tempted by that and never read it. I own three comic books / graphic novels, and I've never finished any of them, which is upsetting.
You're not much of a comic book
guy. Do you want to guess what they are quickly?
No. I imagine one of them is Watchmen, because everyone tells people to read
Correct.
Watchmen. Yeah. The other one is probably Kick-Ass.
Nope.
Ooh. You got the Kevin Smith one, Tales from the Clerks.
No, I own Watchmen. I own Infinity War. I own Infinity Gauntlet. I own the first one. That one I think I did actually pretty much read. And there's a really good. It's got amazing reviews. There's like a really good reboot of Power Rangers. So I've got that as well.
Yeah, that one makes sense. Yeah, you've got only just on my Batman ones, because you've not read Long Halloween. You've not read.
Yeah, I'd be up for it.
You've not read. There's a few. V Vendetta. V Vendetta is incredible.
We'll swap. I'll give you the Power Rangers one, and you can give me a Batman one.
Yeah, like Dark Knight Returns or something. Yeah. There's some good ones.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, one's really good as well.
Yes, I've heard.
There's plenty we could do. V Vendetta would be the next one I would put on your list if you did, because you like Watchmen well enough.
I think there's a shame to it as well, though, in a way, because I think people get into comic books a love of the MCU made me get Infinity Gauntlet, and the way for those that don't know, Infinity Gauntlet begins with them just killing off half the heroes, and I'm like, but now when the movie doesn't do that, because that would be brave to kill off characters in that, it's because he literally like almost clicks his fingers and just half the heroes are dead.
Yeah.
If the movie does that, like, but when the movie doesn't do that, I'll be like, oh, you know what I mean? It's a weird one.
Yeah, true. Also, it says both overall thoughts from seasons 1 and 2. We've covered this, I think. So in the finale for each one, we sort of talked about the season as a whole. I think season 1 is great because I think it does a really good job of just like building a world and then like doing all the really interesting stuff with it in the second half. And I think while that could frustrate some and make it harder to get into, the payoff is incredible. Season 2, I'm trying to remember where the exact border lies for season 2. Which episode does it end on? I can never remember.
Doesn't it end before they've done the drilling? It ends on, my memory is it ends on
That's
one
right.
that you wouldn't
so
expect
it includes the first chunk of the barn stuff. So it includes a lot of Paradox redemption arc, which is incredible. So yeah, both I love them both. Love them both for different reasons.
I think season 2 does a better job. Season 1 introduced you to the world. Season 2, I feel like, quick answer, Season 1 introduces you to the world. Season 2 opens up that world. Season 3 plays in the world that Season 2 has opened. And I think I prefer Season 3 for that reason. I like the fact that we're not opening up a wider world. They're not continuing to open the world. They're just having fun and playing with their toys. Which I think's fair.
That's fair. Someone was going to ask what episode you're currently on, but you're on top of that. P.S. Talk about predicting my question. We're genius psychics.
Which is, but I can't fucking. Hold on. It sounds like Bismuth.
Bismuth.
Yep.
Bismuth, that one was from Julio Aguilera. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Hello.
So, thank you for asking a question we'd already accidentally answered. Starcrown 08 asks, how does Chris's fiance feel about Steven Universe now?
Her feelings haven't changed. I think it's weird. She's not accepting that I may really one day force her to watch it. She doesn't like that anymore, but she's gotten used to the idea that will probably happen. Because I really just want to, because she can't fathom that it would be as deep as it is, and I just want to show her that it is. But I just, when you say things like, honestly, once you're on like episode 20, 25, and she's just like, I shouldn't have to watch 25 episodes of a show to get into it. So she is me in episode 1 of this podcast, and then some, like even more so. Like I kind of make jokes, and I'm like, I don't have an aversion to animation. She will openly admit that she has an aversion to animation. So, yeah, it's a shame, but I get it, because that was me. Like, I'd never watched it if we weren't doing this. So yeah, her feelings haven't changed, but the minute I crack that, the minute I can convince her to watch more, I will let you know, or even try and record the conversation afterwards or something.
Cool. So yeah, that was from Starcrown 08. AGQ. Next question from Repellent Zeus.
I feel bad. Can I just say, I think you should read out the name. I feel like, because you said, thanks for asking a question we've already answered. They didn't know that. Give some love again to the person who asked what episode we were on. I feel like that was glossed over because we answered it in the.
I did say that. I did say the name though.
Yeah, but give him the name again.
Okay.
Give him the name again.
Okay.
Give him some more.
That was from Julio Aguilera. AGQ. AGQ.
Well done, Julio.
Ahead of time.
Your hero. Carry on.
Legend. There you go. So next question is from Repellent Zeus. It's just, how are you? I'm well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah,
very well. Busy and mildly stressed, but yeah.
How are you guys after 95 minutes of this?
Yeah, that's the real question. Comments below. How are you?
It is an intense. It is weird because I feel like this is the most. We've been quite good. We've been doing Nothing But Static for 5 years, and we've been, in terms of your busy but good answer, to expand on that, even though you're like, why are you expanding on answers? We've, throughout those 5 years, you've had busy periods, I've had busy periods. This is the period where, you've referenced moving yourself, new jobs, the wedding. It feels like life is busier for both of us at the same time. So that's where the busy but good.
Yeah, because historically we've been busy at separate times, so we've been able to pick up the slack or the energy or whatever. Or accommodate the other person, whereas we're both fucked at the moment, which is one of the reasons the show, one of the many reasons, it's multitude of reasons, but one of the potential reasons why we got, not behind, but why we're now so close to the line with Steven University rather than being, where we were 3 months ahead at one point. So yeah, there was a point in December when we were recording episodes that were going to go up in at the end of February, early March or something.
And even that itself is a weird one, because that felt too ahead, but this feels too close to
behind.
the wire. So
Yeah, it
it's
does.
interesting.
Yeah, we're trying to get ourselves ahead again now, so we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, so that was Repellent Zeus's question. It was, how are you at Age of Q? Age of Q, we're well. Busy but well. There you go. Juan Fernandova asks multiple questions. We'll try and get through these as quick as possible. Starting with, what's your least favourite aspect of the show? Good question.
They've made me love every character and every element of this world, so I get unnecessarily grouchy when we don't get an element for a few weeks. So I'm like, where's the Connie episodes? And then we get like 3 appearances from Connie in a row, and I'm like, where's Sadie? Like, where's the barn?
You can't win
so
because,
I think
because they could never include all of them at once, so they've shot themselves in the foot.
So and that's a hell of a compliment, but I think that's honestly the answer. I think I want all styles of episodes and all tones of episodes all the time.
Yeah, I would agree with yours. I'm trying to see if I can think of a different one, but just so we're not answering the same, because I think that's the thing that comes up with me the most. I think, I know, least favorite element of the show. It's really tricky. Occasionally, and only very rarely, the dialogue is a bit more on the nose than maybe I would like it, but that is extraordinarily rare when that happens. Yeah. The show is generally speaking good at being subtle and keeping the subtext to subtext, which is, I think, very important sometimes with things like this, because people don't often say what they actually mean. Very, very vulnerable moments, people tend to be more direct and honest with each other. So I like a show that's nice and subtle, and you sort of have to sort of think it through. It's not just all the answers laid out before you. But I appreciate with a kids show, sometimes to make sure the younger people are taking the right messages from it and understanding what's happening, you do have to be a little bit more on the nose. So there's a trade-off there, because I think it's important the show is good for the kids too.
All time though, 11 minutes. Sometimes you can't be subtle with your dialogue in 11 minutes.
It's true. Absolutely true. Next question from Juan Fernandova is, what would an animated show need in order for Chris to watch it? And does that apply to live action shows too?
I guess Dan would need to force me to. No. I'd see. I don't. Again, I don't feel like I do. It's hard to argue against me having this aversion, but I don't think of it that way. So therefore, to me, the answer to that is it just needs to be good. But Rick and Morty's good. BoJack Horseman's good. BoJack is the one I think more than any other. Actually, you'd think it would be Rick and Morty. BoJack's the one I keep going back to and going, I should sit down and watch that.
It's so good.
It's in a really easy format for me to watch. I just have to put it on Netflix and just let it, wash over me. So I think honestly, I think it just has to be good. And maybe I need to be better at making myself watch stuff. It would, and I suppose an honest answer, and it is not in any way, shape, or form her fault. But because Jess isn't interested in animation, very rarely if we're watching something together, which is obviously
is that going to be
ideal?
Yeah.
Is that going to come up as an option for something to watch? And if I'm watching something on my own, I'd rather watch Curb, Crashing, a few of those shows that she doesn't watch. So it's not at all her fault. But I think it just I think it's more than possible though that a great animated show would get through the cracks.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Next question. Now that Dan is playing Save the Light, can we expect Chris to play something in future?
I am even less into video games than I am. I mean, unfortunately, as much as that would entertain Dan especially, just the logistics of, I'd have to buy a console. I'd have to learn how to record it. I'd have to, that is very unlikely, I'm afraid. I don't own a console.
I feel like the only way that's going to happen is if we do a series where I sit you down, you come round to mine, and we we play the video game and it's you playing and me just like being like, no, hit that button, and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. I've never been a gamer to the point where the only console that we have 2 consoles in the house, 3 if you count the Wii, but that's my mum and dad's. The only 2 consoles
machine, really.
I've ever owned were a PS1 and a Sega Mega Drive. So, yeah.
And if memory serves from previous podcasts, you only really had those because it was something to do with your mates when they came round to yours.
Yeah, people would moan so people would because we play games when going around to other people's houses. So my mates would be like, it wasn't just for that. I really liked Sonic and I really liked Crash Bandicoot, and that's about it.
Yeah, so there's one game on each console that you loved.
Yeah, Crash Team Racing was the
Crash
game
Team
we
Racing
played.
Was so much fun. I do like Mario Kart as well, but Crash Team Racing was because I was a PlayStation guy, so Crash Team Racing was the closest I could get to Mario Kart.
It got to the point where mates were coming round and bringing their consoles with them.
Right, gotcha.
But that's better than them not coming round. You know what I mean? That's better than me getting chastised from the gang.
Basically, Chris's aversion to things without real people in them, and the pixels it spreads beyond animation. It also spreads to comic books and video games. That's what we're learning.
But I read books. So that's not
because
anyway.
But they're words, and you can imagine a real person, Chris, if you wish.
I like Pixar movies.
Anyway, moving on. How does Dan feel now that we expect him to sing "It's Over"? Isn't it? Scared as shit. I don't look. It's been a while since I've done a song on here. And I think partly what it was, 2 of them came really close together, and it's always nerve-wracking doing it, and the last one we did was just not a song that suited my voice, and it didn't go great, and I think that scared me off a little bit. There is a temptation. I really like and enjoy playing Still Not Giving Up, which is a song Chris hasn't quite heard yet. That's one of my favorites to sit and play on my ukulele, and I do like It's Over, Isn't It? I also like I do have a good time playing many of the songs on my ukulele, including both of you. I've also I've learned and have historically played Here Comes a Thought, which is again a song Chris that wouldn't know yet, but he will at some point soon. So there are plenty that I can play and stuff, but that I think for me the ukulele has always been like this fun little hobby thing that I do on the side that's like intentionally supposed to be for me and like is a hobby that I do for myself, and it's when I'm not worrying about a podcast or a thing I need to edit or a shift at my job or like it's the thing that I do to sort of just relax. And I think whenever I put the pressure on it of having to do one for this, that always sort of takes the fun out of it a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair, and that probably affects the quality then of your performance.
Absolutely, it does, because it puts an extra pressure on it. I'm not saying. So basically, what I'm saying is, I'm not going to not do it. There are plenty of Steven Universe songs that I have learnt to play and can play reasonably well on the ukulele. So feel free to keep suggesting. And I do enjoy singing "It's Over." I don't think I've ever learnt. I don't know if "It's Over," isn't it, actually translates to the ukulele. I've sung along to a karaoke version that's been put up by Fizzy on YouTube. But I don't think I've ever attempted to learn the music side of it, so I don't know. I'd have to see. But any suggestions? I know Chris really, really wants me to do. Chris is, since Jailbreak Ed has wanted me to do Garnet's.
I think it'd be amazing.
I forgot why is the name of that song escaping me at this exact moment in time.
Better Together or
no.
All Together? Or?
Oh, that's no. Oh God. Why?
Stronger
Than You. Stronger Than You.
Stronger Than You.
That's right. Sorry, why did that take me a minute to get to? I don't know. So yeah, songs may come, but yeah, feel free to keep suggesting.
I think also they were partly a tool for when we felt that the episodes weren't that long, and as shown by this hour and 45-minute masterpiece, that's not necessarily a problem these days.
Yeah, it was a thing Chris tricked me into doing whenever the episode fell short.
Yeah, and they have not been falling short. So.
It's true. So yeah, that's another thing. Then the other one says this one is mostly for Dan. Although I'll be honest with you, I having read the question, when you say mostly, it's for. There's no way Chris can answer this question. Yeah, but Chris is at. I have been asked, what does Adventure Time do wrong that Steven Universe does right, or vice versa? At least in your opinion. Chris doesn't watch Adventure Time, so he's not going to be able to answer that question. I think the big difference to me is that Steven Universe has a focus that Adventure Time does not. Adventure Time starts interesting threads and then forgets about them. And with Steven Universe, when a thread doesn't come up for a little while, you just know it's not the focus of the show right now. But when Adventure Time drops a thread, you genuinely worry it may never return because several of them haven't. And that's the difference. So I have a confidence in the Steven Universe writers on a grander scale that the whole product, when it's all out there, when all the seasons are complete and the story is done, assuming Cartoon Network doesn't chop it off at the head, forgetting that being a possibility, let's assume the show just runs its course. In that world, that show is going to feel complete and set and satisfying, and it's all going to be together and all make sense. With Adventure Time, all the individual episodes are wonderful, and the arcs that they have intentionally designed to go over a couple of episodes and therefore get a chance to wrap up, the meteorite arc, stakes, elements, all those little mini stories they've started doing. Those are all really, really good. But when you look at the whole picture of Adventure Time as a show, it's a real mess. There's so many threads that have been picked up, dropped, forgotten about forever, and never have come back. And then there's moments as well where they really don't, where they bottle out of something that I think is really powerful. I don't think I've made it a secret that Finn losing his arm was one of the few moments of television that year that actually made me tear up. It was so heartbreaking to see it happen. He lost a part of himself to the father that was escaping him. Just so heartbreaking and very powerful. And then it's like, what do we do? He just grows a new tree arm. Yeah, why not? You can have a tree arm for a bit. That felt really cheap. Really cheap. I like the idea that he lost the arm forever. Of course, they've sort of now gone and done more with that further down the line, so maybe that criticism isn't really fair, because eventually they did come back around to that. But for the time, because of the way the show works, it was a complete possibility tree arm was the permanent solution to that problem. And when it came from such an emotional place, come on. Tree arm is not the solution. Thankfully, in the end, they did something different with that, and now I think we're back to where we started with the arm. But and that means we can still do the emotional stuff. So they've sort of had their cake and eaten it too with that. But the point stands is, in the moment, because of their other failures on plots they've dropped, I was angry because I assumed it wasn't coming back. So it's that, yeah. So that's the big difference between Steven Universe and Adventure Time, is that I have just quite simply more faith in the Steven Universe writers because they've earned that trust from me by never really forgetting the plots and keeping it focused, whereas the Adventure Time guys keep dropping the ball here and there, and that means I get angry unnecessarily at things they then deal with. So
fair enough.
Yeah. And then the final question from Juan Fernandova is, what is Chris's favourite episode and why is it cat fingers?
It's not.
That was great. I feel like that needs the Stone Cold Steve Austin gif of him laughing and then his face dropping really serious attached to it.
It's hard to think without looking at a list, but the instant answer that sprang to mind. So this, and you may be going, but you talked really enthusiastically about this episode, not that one. But the one that comes to mind in this moment is Keystone Motel. I thought that was a fantastic piece of writing, character exploration, and what that episode did. The tones it hit, the points it hit in 11 minutes was truly stunning. So yeah, that's the first episode that comes to mind.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's good.
How many more fun behind the scenes fact? How many more have we got to do?
Just a couple. We're very close. The end is in sight, Chris.
Okay. Because do you want to hear something mental for you and for listeners? Before I started this, my mum said, "Oh, don't forget roast dinner 2:00," and I went, "Yeah, that'll be fine." Because we were recording at 10:30, and never in my wildest dreams would it reach a point where I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to be, and it's now 1:45, and I'm like, wow, That's actually become like way closer than I ever imagined at 10:30 this morning.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, we've been here for a while, guys. So if
But
we
you know what
started
it
to sound
is?
delusional,
Actually, you know what this is though? I always think I watch a few YouTube channels that do Q&As occasionally, and I always feel like it's like, and it's like the pace of the answering of the questions is so quick, and I always want to know more. They answer them so quick. It's because they get hundreds, and obviously they're just trying to fit them all in without making a video that's 2 hours long like we've just done. But I always feel like, oh no, elaborate. I'm interested in that question. And I think it's nice that we've taken the time to actually elaborate and answer all the questions as carefully as we have.
Yeah, and the good thing, although now 2:00 is a deadline, we would never have started this because we've gone on way longer than we thought. I think it's important, especially with a Q&A, to essentially have almost endless time. And at 10:30 this morning, 2:00 felt like endless time. So we didn't want to ever do it. Yeah, I'm glad we've done it this way. Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for for the questions, Juan Fernandova. There were many questions, but they were all pretty good. So yeah, and he says at the bottom, sorry for my English, but English seems fine. So.
Yeah, great English.
No need to apologise. The English was good as far as I could tell. So yeah, AGQs, thank you so much. Next question, one of only a couple that are left. From J Bud, who has been a listener and commenter on these for quite some time. Which episode or character arc have you most personally resonated with on the show so far?
Blimey. God.
It's tough because I do sometimes feel like the one the story I relate to most is Amethysts, just because I feel like that feeling of inadequacy. Because I think life is weird in that, like, you give yourself these artificial things you want to achieve, and there's two ways it works out. You either achieve it and you go, great, what's the next thing? So you're always putting yourself under a goal, which means you never reach a goal where you can go, I'm done, I'm satisfied, which means you just live this endless life of chasing after your own tail. Or you fail to reach the goal and then you feel worthless. And I feel in some ways Amethyst goes through that a lot because she's got this chip on her shoulder about coming out of the ground earlier and not being as big and as strong as she thinks she should be. So she's setting these artificial goals for herself. And then not reaching them. And I think that's quite powerful, and I do think that's representative, and I think that's quite a broad way to talk about Amethyst's arc, but I do relate to it, though, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the easier, in a way, changing the question to what elements of the characters do you relate to the most is easier, because I've never, I'm not two halves, one called Ruby and one called Sapphire, and I've never had to drill down into the Earth's core. So in terms of like the arcs, it's hard to relate, but in terms of like the character stuff, I really, especially in my working life and in general, like I will always try and find the best of, I'm the middleman a lot. I think I never want to upset anyone, so I'm always trying to find the best solution. And I'm trying to please people, and I think Stephen does that as well. And I think the older you get, the harder that gets to do. Because often pleasing one person will mean upsetting another, and so yeah, I think Stephen doesn't really say no, and Stephen's attitude is always, well, I have to find a way because that's what I've got to do, and that's an attitude I relate to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's true, and I also think like. I just think in general, like I think almost all the arcs have something relatable in them when you actually boil them down. We've all been in relationships that were a little unhealthy. Well, not all, but like most of us have. We've all had the big what ifs in our lives. Like I think Pearl lives in a constant state of what if. Could it have been different with me and Rose? And you sort of
we've probably all had unrequited love as well.
Precisely. So I think what's wonderful about this show is like everyone should find stuff to relate to in this content. I mean, Stephen also echoes the Amethyst arc as well of living up to expectations. In his case, it's different because they're not set by himself like they are with Amethyst. Amethyst's expectations are against her own imagination of what she should be, whereas his expectations are set by his circumstances. He's a version of rose quartz. He has all this pressure put on him, unintentionally. Certainly the gems aren't enforcing that necessarily, but just his circumstances have led him to feeling like he's got a lot to live up to, and that's and I'm sure there are people out there that have been overshadowed by a sibling or have been born into a successful family and have not necessarily been able to recreate that success. You know what I mean? There's those expectations on people. That must be a very relatable plot as well. So I don't know which has most resonated personally on the which episode or character arc have you most personally resonated with? I feel like I want to give this a better answer, but I think it is just the Amethyst arc for me. It's the first thing that comes to mind. I can't think of anything better than that.
Yeah, I think it's the character stuff for me. The Greg and Steven stuff always resonates with me quite a lot. And I don't particularly know why. I think it's because it's just it's a relationship where they both just want to please each other. And I think I feel like sounding ridiculously personal, my dad's always had a lot of faith and belief in me, and what I do with that, and whether I've done enough to meet that faith is a big thing of mine that I think I've only ever said out loud to Jess. So it's weird to be saying it out loud now on a podcast, but we went there. So there you go.
There you go. Nice little moment of humanity from an otherwise cold podcast. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. So
now let's get back to wrapping it up so I can have my roast dinner.
Yeah, we still got 10 minutes, so we're okay. But yeah, we are. But we only got 2 questions from one person remaining, so that's good.
Cracking.
So Cram, who is a regular poster, Cram1032.
I've been waiting for Cram. I've been like, well, surely Cram submitted something.
Yeah, we do talk about Cram's comments a lot. Cram comments on pretty much every single video, which is awesome. And I really always feel bad because I go through these stages these periods where I can't respond as much, and then it gets so far in the past that I'm just like, if I respond to these now, what good is that? No one's going to even remember what they wrote. Do you know what I mean? And it really bothers me when that happens. So I go through a couple of weeks, or maybe even a month where I don't respond a lot, and then I respond all the time again. But Cram always posts, and I always read them. I read everyone's, but I always read you. Cram posts some of the longest ones we get, but they're always some of the most interesting. So I always appreciate Cram's posts. But this one, 2 questions. What is Chris's favorite moment from Cat Fingers?
The fade to black at the end.
That's a perfect answer. And then the second question from Cram. Actually, no, I didn't do J-Bud. AGQs. I feel like I had to do that for everyone now. Cram also asks, wow, so you're currently a mere 3 weeks ahead. Even that's lower than that now. Have you guys changed your recording schedule? We've covered this a little, but to fully explain very briefly, I am a fucking arsehole. Right, to explain what happened in a slight more detail than we've done on the podcast, because we sort of brushed over it a little bit. We were 3 months ahead, and Christmas came, and we were both busy, and it was Christmas, and we were so far ahead, we felt too far ahead, that we both made a conscious decision to bow out for a bit and give ourselves some space. There were 2 primary reasons. One was we were both going to be busy over Christmas. So we felt... Actually, there were 3 reasons. We both thought we were going to be busy over Christmas, so it made no sense to force podcasts into space we couldn't fit them, recording-wise. Then also I felt, and I don't know if Chris will echo these thoughts, I felt we were starting to be a bit burnt out. The last episode or 2 before that gap, I don't think were as good as they could have been. And I feel like we've been much stronger since we came back from that gap as well. So I'm glad we did it. The third reason was we were so far ahead, it seemed inconceivable that we'd almost ever catch up, legitimately. But then what happened is Christmas came and went, and we had not recorded much. We had lowered the aheadness, the gap, to like a month and a half, which seemed about right. But then we were faced with a bunch of barriers that really slowed our ability to go at the same rate we had been for about a month, between the finale for Fringe, like we said, all the stuff we've talked about in this already. Chris's engagement, the he's planning a wedding, moving house. I've got a new job. I'm moving house. We were both just super slammed. So what we didn't perceive happening, we assumed we could take a break and then hit the ground running. But I guess the reason we were so ahead in the first place was so that if anything happened out of our control, it wouldn't matter. We then went, we're ahead enough, took an intentional break, and then had immediately followed it was like a forced break because of just circumstances. And it wasn't a complete break, but we basically went from recording 2 or 3 a week, which was what was getting us so far ahead, because we were always recording these odd extra ones that were just, every time we did that pushed us 1 ahead of the 2 a week schedule. That's how we kept slowly getting further and further away from where the date was. And then, of course, we didn't stop. We just slowed down. We went under it. So we started just recording like 1 a week, basically. So we stopped over Christmas. But then when we did come back, but we just didn't come back at the right pace. We weren't coming back at 2 a week at least. We were coming back at like 1 a week. We took a week off, did 2 that week. So it felt like we were roughly doing half of what we should. So within the month of January and through a chunk of February, then it really closed down that gap on us really quickly. It didn't help that there was also a bomb at the start of January, so we lost 3 episodes there. So yeah, all those factors together to lead us to the disaster that we're in now. It's not a disaster. I'm actually okay with it. I think we'll do it because Fringe Observers is now ended, so we can pretty much continue to keep Steven University a couple of weeks ahead rather than a couple of months ahead, and that means we can respond more actively to the comments, which is better.
Yeah, I think it's striking a balance. I think we've got closer than we would have liked, but I think we are close to striking a balance of having of the gap being like a month gap is a good place to be in. A month ahead is a good amount of time to respond to things, but also be far enough ahead to not be panicking. But yeah, it's just a lot of things came at once. But I think what's nice is, and it's worth saying, like you guys we've still got to, it's never reached a point where we've had to not release an episode. So it's more kind of our thing than anything for you guys to worry about. We will always find a way. But I think the nice middle ground, which hopefully we're about to hit, is that we will be like a month ahead. But unfortunately,
I reckon 3 weeks is like perfect.
Yeah, 3 weeks a month. But it's one of those weird things where you just can't control it. Like life gets in the way. So like not the week we're about to go into, but the week after that is. Oh no, this is the week So like next week we don't have an MBS to record, so logically we can just only record Steven Universe. But next week is Dan's last week in his current job, so things are going to be busy, and Dan's looking for a house, and and then
I'm literally starting a new job that week after, so it's like
exactly, which is going to bring its own kind of what do we do recording wise. So but hopefully it will never reach a point where we're not uploading episodes, so it's for us to to worry about. But we'll
worst case scenario, if disaster strikes now while we're this close, because we are a bit playing with fire in that we are closer than we'd like to be. If disaster struck now and we physically couldn't record for a couple of weeks, and we'd probably just go to 1 a week for a bit until we could get ourselves back where we were. So the worst case scenario, I think, is 1 a week if we ever have to.
Yeah, and I can't particularly see that unless that would have to require a laptop breaking or. One of us.
Yeah. Like I said, if disaster strikes is the only way that even happens at this point. So that's pretty much it. Or me and Chris have the inevitable fight that has been brewing for 5 years.
Yeah, the fight that ends it all.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for your questions. We're sorry that was so long. But thank you for all the questions, all the love, and all the comments. We are so incredibly grateful that we've been able to build this.
That's why
community.
I think we're willing to dedicate like 2 hours of our lives to just talking to the listeners, because I think we're so amazed that you guys care enough to comment and like and subscribe and like.
Yeah,
J Bud like posts on the Reddit every week, twice a week. That's amazing. Why I can't express. I definitely owe him a pint. And like it's things like that where I'm just like, we've built this little community. It's small, yes, but it is mighty. You guys are cleverer than us and more engaged than we are, and you put so much effort in. And like even Cram, who's put that great spreadsheet together of when the episodes are going to hit, which I think Bismuth is going to sadly turn that upside down. Potentially, we're working on something at the minute that the Bismuth one is an issue for scheduling. But yeah, on the whole. Things like this, I'm not going to be like, oh, this is us giving back. But it's, in a way, it's us continuing to engage with you guys because you take so much time to engage with us.
Yeah, and I think engage. The only thing I'd say as well is like don't engage with each other. Like comment with each other. Be nice to each other. Obviously, play nice. Be kind. Be more kind. It's just a song that I like by Frank Turner. So yeah, just have that community stretch to each other and chat with each other and stuff. And we love you guys. And I'm sure you'll love each other.
I think I can only recall one instance where I saw two people getting a bit shirty with each other in our comments, and I had to say play nice. And that was it. And somebody said to me a few months ago, "Oh, it's just because you engage with it, so they know you're reading it, so they don't want to, like, they're not, they're not being like it's the comment sections that go ignored where that sort of happens." And I said I don't like to think of myself as being some sort of weird like police of our own comment section.
Yeah, I don't think that's it. Like
I don't either.
I know plenty of channels where people respond and still get shit.
Yeah, like I like to think that we just have cultivated a very small but very, very nice, like-minded folk group. I think it's nicer to think that that's what it is, and not that everyone's scared of some sort of weird banhammer I could wield. Do you know what I mean? Which isn't something
I think everyone's just nice.
Yeah,
I think everyone's just nice. Yeah. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so there you go. Cool. So thanks very much for listening to this. We won't do another Q&A for a while because, dear Lord, that was a marathon. But we will probably end up doing another one. Maybe because do we call this the season 3 Q&A, and we'll do a season 4 one at some point. So
yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see how quickly we get through it. So thanks very much for taking the time to listen. You're all legends and heroes, and we'll see you as we keep putting out content. And thanks so much for subscribing and listening and watching and commenting and liking and all the things you guys are currently doing, because you're amazing.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
And every day we're thankful that you guys exist, because it sort of validates this in a weird way, and it makes us feel like we're actually doing something with our lives rather than rather than
we
not.
Can't. We can't. There'd be no words to express how awesome that is. So thank you so much.
Yeah, every day I wake up and go like, holy hell, there are emails with comments about things we've said and done, and that's amazing that anyone cares. So yeah, thanks so much, guys. We'll speak to you on the next video. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And we'll see you at the next thing, whatever that thing is. That ending felt very much like an ending of Save the Light. I know you didn't watch those videos, Chris, but I always end them with like, see you on the next, whatever this is. So I feel like I've continued the trend. And for those wondering, it's only 2 or 3 minutes past 2, so Chris is still getting his roast, and it's still going to be hot, guys.
Way. And I have it now. See ya.
Bye.